There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to session one of ADA Accessibility Content Publishing Roles, Impact, and Writing. I'm John Watson, the Director of Web Services, and going through and doing the presentation for accessibility today will be our accessibility subject matter expert, Kianda Smith, who we're very happy to have on the team with us. Again, if you have any questions, please raise your electronic hand or put something in the chat space. I'll keep an eye on monitoring it. And with that, I am now going to kick it over to Kianda to go through today's presentation. Thank you guys all very much again for joining us today. Kianda, it's all yours.
Sure, thanks. And again, I'll just briefly go through. We are trying to remain compliant with the upcoming April 24th of 2026 law that is coming into place for all state and local governments to ensure that your content is accessible by that date and that you're able to maintain accessibility. I'm Kianda. I'm with the Office of Enterprise and Web Services, and today we're going to explore how you can make sure that your digital content is accessible to everyone. That more importantly includes those who may identify with disabilities. Now, our goal is just simple. By the end of this session one, you'll know your specific role in accessibility, where in the content lifecycle you should check for accessibility, and how to apply some of those inclusive writing practices that benefit all of our users, our end users, and our web content users. So just due to the large attendance here, just like John had mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'll be providing some breaks in between to see if you have any questions on the presentation, but we won't take up a lot of your time today. So this presentation is primarily meant to provide a baseline for accessibility knowledge. There'll be more sessions that'll cover incrementally advanced accessibility practices that you can put into your workflow. But for now, here's our agenda for this brief session. We're going to go over a quick introduction to the accessibility, the digital accessibility in Section 508 of the ADA. We want to make sure that you guys also understand accessibility responsibilities and publishing content to the website and any of our digital products, some practical writing strategies for accessibility, a little bit more about your headings, your alt text, and also some free tools that you guys may can incorporate to help give you some answers and guidance as you make sure that your content is accessible. And lastly, there will be a Q&A as well as some additional resources that you can start to use immediately that I'll provide at the end of this presentation. So if there's no questions about that, we can go ahead and get started. So we'll start with part one. I'm going to talk a little bit about an introduction of the digital accessibility and a little bit about the Section 508 of the Americans with Disability Act. So the digital accessibility means designing websites, your documents, your communication so that everyone can use them, no matter their abilities or disabilities. That includes those who use assistive technologies like screen readers, voice commanders, or alternative input devices like Braille or any type of alternative input device. Digital accessibility applies to our websites, apps, documents, media, and also the platform itself. So if you're using any type of third-party platforms or any type of platform, could be a social media platform, we still have to be accessible on those platforms that don't belong to us as well, if our constituents are meant to be reviewing those. When we say accessibility, we specifically mean that all of these digital accessibility products that you put on the website, they must support screen readers, you must have captions, it must be keyboard navigation, ability to navigate using your keyboard only. Contrast is a big deal we see a lot of, so you must have sufficient contrast. I'll go over that legislation shortly. Clear structure and some error-proof forms. And forms is also a big deal, especially when it comes to PDF forms. We'll cover that briefly, but that's something that's going to be ongoing. And in our more advanced sessions, we'll go into greater detail. And the desired outcome is equal access for everyone, including people with disabilities, not a separate add-on, but we want to be inclusive by default. And Section 508 is a federal law that requires government agencies to make electronic and IT accessible. WCAG stands for the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It is the international gold standard. We focus on WCAG 2.1 level AA. Keep in mind, WCAG has multiple sections. It has 2.0, it has 2.1, it has 2.2. We are following by federal legislation 2.1, and we are following level AA. There are 3 levels. That's single A, double A, and triple A. In order for us follow level AA, that means we have automatically followed single A. So A and AA is what we focus on. AAA are those nice to haves. So at the heart of WCAG are 4 principles. What's short for those 4 principles, the acronym POUR. And that means, is the content perceivable, is it operable, is it understandable, and is it robust? If you can answer yes to all 4 of these, then your content is most likely accessible, meaning is the information available to all senses for perceivable. If someone is deaf, can they still get the content? Yes, these slides will be available afterwards, Bailey. Thanks for that. If someone is deaf or hard of hearing, someone is visually has some type of visual or senses, someone has dexterity, sensory issues, can they still navigate the site? Can they still be able to navigate your content? We want to make sure it's perceivable to all persons regardless of their abilities. Is it operable? Can I navigate your site using my keyboard only? Can I interact with your interactions by just using the keyboard? Meaning, don't force me to have to use a mouse in order to navigate your website. Is the content clear? Is it consistent? And does it work with a variety of technologies? Could be assistive tech. It could be someone who may be using their phone, or they may be using a tablet, or they may be using some type of assisted device, like a head wand or braille reader. If all those things meet the mark, then you're most likely going to be accessible. Sounds like a lot, but it's for us, we've done a very good job with most of our web content and being able to meet all of those. But some things we still need to work a little bit harder on, and those are the things I'm going to focus on a little bit more today. Any questions about that? Okay, so
I have a quick question. I
sure,
see
go ahead, Nathan.
you have WCAG 2.2 listed there. So it is 2.1 AA that we're required to meet, not 2.2.
Yes, 2.2 is fine. 2.1 is what federal government requires us to meet. 2.2, you're gonna meet that. It's gonna come inherently. Don't worry too much about WCAG 2.1 or 2.2. They are the exact same. There's only a difference of about 7 items. Doesn't matter which one you want to go with. 2.2 is just a little bit of an additional add-on. We are not federally mandated to follow 2.2, but if you follow 2.2, you are straight with 2.1. However, 2.0, you will never hear me talk about that because that does lack about 17 different standards that are not there. And you'll never hear me talk about 2.0. You may hear me talk about 2.1 or 2.2. Either one, I use them interchangeably. Doesn't matter which one, but it has to be 2.1 or 2.2. The federal government takes the latter of those, which is 2.1. So that's okay to use 2.1 or 2.2. And I'm sorry for that confusion. Good question, though. Thanks, Nathan, for making that clear for me. Any additional questions?
We do have
yes, absolutely, Deshaun.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, County.
Yes, I see that there will be additional assistance for smaller departments. Just reach out to us. Our contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. Did I miss any other questions? I saw some others that came through. I might have missed them.
Lorraine's asking about cost for add-ons and who is paying. I think, Lorraine, during the presentation, I think you'll get, some clarity on some of that stuff, like what our office at OWS is doing versus what other people are doing and what's free on the marketplace. So I think we're just going to hold that one for now. Allie, I think same for you. Okay. Not trying to dismiss your question, but I think some of the stuff probably is going to get talked about in a little bit.
Yes. All right, so illegally ignoring accessibility, some of the repercussions that can happen as to why this is so important, it can lead to, first of all, it's the right thing to do, right? We want to make sure our stuff is accessible for everyone who accesses our state and local content. We want to make sure it's accessible. It's just the right thing to do. Secondly, if we do not follow this federally mandated law, we are opening ourselves up to some Department of Justice fines, as well as individual complaints and lawsuits, and that hurts us in several ways. It can hurt us financially, as well as it can hurt our reputation. And ethically, it's just about providing equitable access to public services. So because of the type of high risk and high traffic public services that we offer the general public, we want to make sure that we are being able to meet all the needs of people who who need our services. We're a public organization. We're here to serve. So in order for us to serve, we have to make sure that it's accessible. Practically, believe it or not, even though it might look like we're spending a lot of money doing this, later on, it actually will save us money because it avoids costly remediation later down the line. It improves the usability for all of our users, of course, and it even helps us with people being able to find information on search engines and things like that. So we're even getting more businesses and we're reaching out to more people by being accessible because of search engine optimization and people being able to navigate for Marylanders or anyone else or wherever to go ahead and access the information that they may need if we're accessible. Inaccessibility makes it hard for some of those services to be found in the general public, as far as like some of the search engines and things like that. If we're not accessible, they'll drop us right off of the search engine. So just being accessible, it helps us in all these ways, as well as just it's the right thing for us to do for all users. So I went on, and I don't want to pick on anyone. So if this is your department, please don't, I apologize. Please don't feel like I'm picking on you. I'm not. This is actually, believe it or not, I struggled to find any sites that had major issues. This site does not have any major issues. Actually, this site is pretty good. I just had to find a site that had something that I could speak to you guys about. So if this is your department, don't worry, it's not bad. It's actually a pretty good site. We'll talk to you later one-on-one about any of the issues that we may have found on you. But this is a good site, but there are some things that we can tighten up about this site. So if you are a little bit more familiar with accessibility, you may be able to just look really quick and see some things just by glancing at it. If you want, there's the link up top there. If you want to go to the actual site and just look at it a little bit closer where you can see it in maybe better detail. But I'll show you some things, and it's only about 2 or 3 things that could help this site become even more accessible than what it already is. So look at here. These are some things that I noticed about the site. As I said, it's not a terrible site. I mean, it's actually pretty good. It's just a few little things here and there. First thing I noticed, without even looking at the code or without even going into the inspector tool, I just noticed here that where I have the first error and it says color contrast, glancing at it, you may not even notice that that color is slightly different, that you're not using the brand color. It looks like they just went into their color picker and just chose a color that was close to our brand. Our brand colors are accessible. This walk-in message here is not an accessible color. The contrast is off. It actually is about 3.8. We need to be 4.5 to 1 as far as, so it's slightly off a little bit. Some individuals may not be able to see it. Some lower grade screen readers may skip over it. If it's a lower grade, some of the free screen readers may even skip over that comment because they may not see it there. And then there's a lot, about 10% of the population cannot even see that color anyway. So if they wanted this to be highlighted, if they wanted this message to be important and noticeable to people, that's fine. You can use all caps. That's perfectly fine. Just don't use that color because some people won't even see the color. Some screen readers won't read that color. And so your very important message has already been ignored off the, walking out the door. So if you're going to use colors that are within our brand limits, just make sure that you are using the actual brand colors that are provided by MDH. Any questions about that color contrast and about the slight difference between this color and our actual brand color? It's very, 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 it's almost not even noticeable, right? If you look at this color versus this color, it's so faint you can barely notice it. But this one is definitely not accessible. Yes, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out for the group that, and I think Kiana, you might still be going to touch this, so I don't mean to jump in too much in advance. Nope. But things on the infrastructure level with page layouts and web parts. And color would be one of those. That is all controlled by us at OWS. So when the time comes where Kianda would be reaching out to you to address any critical or any other concerns on your page, anything at the infrastructure level will be taken care of. So we will ensure that the color on the main page layout and web parts is all completely accessible. Where you guys have the control and where you guys can change colors is really what we want you to focus in on. So you don't need to be worried or focused in on anything that you can't control, because that's on us to take care of for you, and that will help also get your page completely accessible. So I just wanted to point that out. I think Kiana's kind of going to go into that a little bit, but I just wanted to put a fine point on that.
Yes, definitely. Good point. And we try to stick with our brand colors, but if you go in and you use your color picker and you choose your own color, just make sure that it's comparable with our branding colors. But definitely, I will go over the things that we can control and the things that you can control. Also, another thing I noticed here was a touch target here. And when I say touch target, I mean these little words here. And let's just say if I were not able to use, if I had to use a touch screen, because some assistive technology will not allow individuals to use a point and click system, which could mean a mouse or even just using their keyboard. Some individuals, due to their disabilities or their preference, must use a touch screen. Because these touch targets are so close together, if I don't have good dexterity, say if I have shaky fingers or if I have anything with my dexterity that may be compromised, I may not be able to actually touch on the object in this list that I want. Only thing to simply make this more accessible, just add another space in between. They just have these single space, just make the space 1.5 or 2 double space. That would make, you know, the touch target much more easier for all individuals to be able to touch it. That's just something really, really small there for those bullets. Just being able to make sure you have spaces in between objects where you have links that are like back-to-back links like that, because I could easily select the wrong link when I'm really meant to touch this link. But I hit this one because I don't have the dexterity to be able to touch it because they're just so close together. Also, your headings. I wanted, you know, just we're going to talk a little bit more about headings. Some of the headings are our responsibility. I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but just to cover on it here, if say this is a heading, let's say you wanted to use this as H1, then you say, okay, that should be a H2, of course, because all headings should run consecutively. So this should be H3, right? So what's happened here is they went from H1, then they went straight on to went here to H3. There was we never even touched on the H2 anywhere. It just never was an H2. So what happened is, if I'm navigating this using assistive technology, and I navigate using my headings, which a lot of people do, and I go, okay, let's go to heading 1. Let's see what it's talking about. It'll read board news, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, let's go to heading 2. It's like, oh, there are no heading 2s. I say, okay, let's go to heading 3. It'll go straight here, right? It's going to completely skip that because it's not listed as a H2. So it's not even going to let me know that that's there. If I'm low vision or no vision and I'm using a screen reader, it's going to skip this because it's not labeled with the heading. It's going to go straight to the next heading in the list. It's going to say there are no H2s. So please be conscientious of your headings. We'll go into a little bit more detail later on about that, but that's something else. Now, these links that are also bullets, we're doing a little bit more information, a little bit more research on this. This may or may not be something you guys can cover, but just be aware of how you're doing your links. And we'll talk more about that. We'll have more information going on about that, but we have to do a little bit more research on that. But when you have your links as well as your bullets, just be conscious of how those are appearing on your page to make sure that they're being read accordingly. But we'll have more information going on about that, so don't be too stressed out about that part. So are there any questions? Sure, Lauren.
So, a question about the links. I've noticed that in the past, sometimes when I am linking certain documents or pages, the link will either turn red or it'll turn blue. So I think maybe that's a SharePoint thing. I'm not really sure. John, I think you kind of touched on it, but as far as like what the standards will be. But will that be a standard that when the links are, highlighted, that they'll just automatically be red?
That should be something that we would take care of, I believe. Yes, Lauren.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, I know I've run into the issue a couple times and I've tried to change it to that red color because it seems like it's defaulting to red, but sometimes it just does not cooperate. SharePoint doesn't cooperate.
Yeah, there is some, and I think we'll talk about this later, there is some limitations within SharePoint that will make some pages potentially not completely accessible. But how we're dictating and standardizing our web content is that we want to have no critical issues. We want to have a certain score of over 90. And if there's anything that we have within our control that we can fix, we need to fix it. That covers our butt, so to speak, as far as the accessibility law is concerned. Obviously, the main reason why we're here is because we want accessible content for our constituents. But for the law's sake, If we feel that we did our due diligence and we could do everything within our power to fix anything that we can fix within the limitations of SharePoint, then we're covered. And I think your question, I think we can take care of that. I did just jot it down though for Eric and Shiv, and I'll just follow up on that, but I think you're going to be okay, Lauren.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Nathan has a question. Katrina, Kianda, how does one confirm touch targets are spaced adequately?
Yeah, so if you have just general, based on WCAG, I think it's 1.4.3 for information and relationships, I believe. If you have the links that are in bullets, make sure that they are double spaced. Just a general rule, if you follow WCAG guidelines, and I will give you the list at the end of this presentation, so don't worry about memorizing that. You will have a list. If you have bullets that follow back to back to back, make sure you add an additional space through that. Now, if that is something that is within your control within the SharePoint environment by adding an additional space in between, which I do believe you can control that, just go ahead and add a space. If it's something that you're like, hey, I tried to add spaces in between my bullets and it kept defaulting back, then that means that's something we'll need to update for you. But I do believe, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, that they can control the spacing in between their bullets, correct?
I believe they can, yes.
Yeah, I believe you can. So just make sure if you have hyperlinks in your bullets, make sure that you add an additional space in between them, just so you meet the touch target guideline. And I will give you that guideline, so don't worry about memorizing it. Any additional questions? All right. Now, since these are some defects that our editors may be able to assist with, let's take a look at maybe some of the defects that we have to take care of. Like, we call these our brand defects. And what I mean by brand is like things in the SharePoint environment that you have absolutely no control over. However, it does stop your page from being generally accessible, but you can't really control it because it's something that falls on our end. And we do have a huge project where we're working on making sure that on the back end that you have every opportunity to make sure that your content is accessible as possible, keeping in mind the limitations of the actual platform. For example, you may see some of your reports. If you may have received a report that says something about landmarks are off a little, if you run your own using our free tools and you go to run your accessibility report on your own just to see what it gets, you may get errors like this, like landmarks are not unique. You're going to get this. I promise you will get, oh, your ARIA role is incorrect. You may get some stuff about your UL, OLs, and your list structures being inaccessible. These are not things that if you are looking like, I don't know what that means, usually it's not something that you can control. Or if you're not sure, just reach out to us. If you run your own personal, and you will have the ability to run your own reports based on the free tools that we give you. You will see things that make absolutely no sense to you. If you don't think that you can do anything about it, you don't know what it means, reach out to us and we'll let you know. Oh, don't worry about that. We'll fix it. John, did you have a comment?
Nope, I'm trying to answer the questions I know the answers to in the chat.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. You're the best.
Sure.
You're the best. Yeah, so don't worry about if you see anything about ARIA. ARIA is a code. It's a similar to HTML code. It's a code that is on the back end of our system. You will, I guarantee you will see that error pull up in your personal report that you pull. I guarantee you will see something about landmarks and containers as well. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that on our end. You can always do more research if you want to learn more about it, but you're not going to be able to do anything about fixing it. It will stop your page from being accessible. So if you notice, hey, I pulled this report up, in March of 2026 and my page is still inaccessible, then just let us know. We probably already know, but just let us know and we'll see, just to make sure it's not anything we can do about it to help you out. But keep in mind, there are some limitations of SharePoint and we are aware of those as well. Any additional questions about that? All right. Hopefully John was able to help you guys off with some answering those questions. And feel free to ask questions in the comment. John most likely can answer most of them for you because he's heard these presentations a million times. All right. So part two.
Still learning every day, but I'm getting better and better at being a subject matter.
Oh, he's great. He's actually really good. So he'll be able to answer. So part two, accessibility in your actual content publishing. Keep in mind that accessibility is not just the SharePoint developer's job, right? It starts with the content that you all are creating. As editors and approvers, you are responsible for making sure what's published is usable and compliant from the start. It's always hard to make inaccessible content accessible. It's very easy to just create accessible content off the gate. Like, come out the gate accessible, your life would be so much easier. Don't just say, oh, let me create this page how I want it, then I'll go back and fix it for accessibility. That not only for web pages, but also PDFs and things like that. Try to create everything accessible from the start. It'll make your life so much easier. And we can start that today. Start that day one. Anything in the past, if you want to go back and, take a glance at it, learn how to fix it, of course, reach out to us. Any content that you do starting today, make sure that off the gate, you are accessible. I will provide you with a checklist to make sure that you have the tools to help you out with that. So for content editors and approvers, MDH utilizes, of course, your content editors and approvers to manage and disseminate information across all of our various platforms. Now, these roles, they make sure that the quality, accuracy, and consistency of content related to health initiatives, policies, and public information. So MDH does have a dedicated Office of Communications that oversee these functions, including training for content editors and approvers. So the content editors have these your responsibilities and your roles here. You develop various types of content that includes your social medias, your posts, your web pages, newsletters, press releases. They make sure that all the content aligns with the MDH brand and the messaging guidelines that we have. You guys will collaborate with different divisions within MDH offices and local health departments to streamline the messaging and cross-promote different types of initiatives. You may also analyze content consumption data to inform the future content strategies and verify that the information is accurate and up to date, often working with a single source of truth, hopefully. And MDH provides training for content editors and approvers, including the SharePoint basics, advanced editing, and some SEO best practices training is also available out there. So we utilize a network of content editors and approvers supported by, the Office of Communications, also supported by web services. Honestly, accessibility is everyone's responsibility, not just yours, not just SharePoint developers, but everyone on your team, everyone in your department. Accessibility is all of our responsibilities. But as the content editors and approvers, you guys are the ones posting the information. So you definitely need to make sure any information that's handed to you is accessible. And if you see that it's not, get with them about it, come reach out to us, see how we can help you guys make that accessible. So any questions about the approver roles and content editors and approver roles and responsibilities? All right, and if you have any questions later on, you can always ping us or just hit us up, and we'll always stop what we're doing and help you with that, okay? All right, so some accessibility touch points in your actual workflow. I won't go into a lot of detail about this because you guys all have different workflows. So I'll just say generally these are the stages that most workflows kind of happen, where every stage of how you are drafting all the way up to updating your content, every stage should have an accessibility review, whether that's just you running a really quick accessibility check, and you can do that through the free tools that we provide for you. You can even reach out to us and say, hey, there's something here I don't understand. I'm getting an error on this. How can I fix this? Reach out to us. We'll help you make it accessible. This should happen at every stage of your workflow. However you get your content on your site, from when it's created, the draft, to do an accessibility check. Then when it gets edited, do an accessibility check. When it undergoes review, another one. And when you publish it, do another accessibility check. And sometimes that includes a free tool, and sometimes it just includes you taking a look at it and saying, hey, okay, this works, this is accessible. So a workflow very similar to this will ensure that accessibility is built in and that is not just bolted on at the end. Because I'll tell you, if you go through all of these stages, you go through draft, then edit, then review, and then when you get to publish, say, oh, let me go ahead and do an accessibility check. You're going to have a lot of work to do if you didn't start with accessibility here. So try to make sure as soon as you get the content, as soon as you know what you're going to post, go ahead and initiate your accessibility check. If you make any changes to the content before you publish it, if at least do nothing more and try to do another one here. And then, under the review process, as long as there have been no changes, you can go ahead and do one more last check right at publishing. You'll become a pro at doing accessibility checks. So you probably won't even need to use your checklist or any of the free tools once you've done it a few times. So there are some risks associated with inaccessible content, right? And I did touch on this briefly earlier, but when I'm just going to touch on it a little bit more. But when content is not accessible, it can trigger legal action. It can also alienate our users, and it can cause us to have to spend a lot of money, a lot of time trying to fix some of these issues later, which is what's happening right now. Because accessibility was not a priority due to the law not being in place. Now the law is in place, and now we're like, oh, great. So we need to go ahead and make sure that everything's accessible. And now look at all the time and money that we're having to spend to go back and retroactively repair everything. So, but once we get it done this time, we should be able to maintain it, and we'll be through this hard phase, and all of our content moving forward is going to be accessible, and accessibility should be on everyone's mind to make sure that everyone can access our content. So, just understand that doing it now is going to save us so much time and money and heartache later on down the line. Now, writing for accessibility. So there's an initiative out there. It's called Plain Language. I will let you know, plain language is not necessarily a part of the WCAG. It's briefly mentioned in WCAG, not in using the words plain language, but it uses the words like something similar to clear writing or clear language usage, because the federal government has a carve out. That carve out is called plain language. The Maryland Department of Health, the state of Maryland, we do have a plain language initiative that is ongoing. That's because the plain language initiative is federal mandate. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because this is not our project. There is a separate project going on, but there is a small little clause within WCAG to just make sure that you are writing in a plain language, and there is a separate trainings and things going on about that. But basically what we want you to understand is just know your audience, start with your main points, keep your sentences and your paragraphs kind of short. Don't go overly like having 8-page paragraphs for persons to read. Using your active voice, avoid jargon and just use very familiar words and provide definitions when needed. Just try to be as clear as possible and just express yourself more clearly. There are plain language guidelines, and that's why that's a separate project, and it doesn't include the WCAG guidelines, but just know that plain language is something that is kind of part of this initiative, but it's not something that's covered under WCAG. Any questions on the plain language initiative that I could try to answer, but all right. Now let's talk a little bit more about these headings. The reason why I pulled headings out as a separate conversation is because there's been so many issues with headings on our pages, right? There are some of these headings falls on us. That don't worry about that. We're going to fix that. But majority of the headings do fall on your team. Looking at this, headings aren't just for looks. So don't use H1, H2, H3 just because it's bigger, it's bolder, it's smaller, it's bold, whatever. Don't use it for looks. These are actual landmarks that assistive technology use so that users can navigate your page. So we actually need them to be right. Don't use headings just because of the way they look, because I can tell you, even myself, I do tests using a screen reader, and I sometimes navigate pages by using just the headings. That way, I don't even have to necessarily go into your code and look to see what your headings are. I can just run through your page with my screen reader and say, oh, the headings are great. I'm getting all the information because I am a sighted person. So I can see that it's wrong. Not everyone who uses a screen reader is sighted. Some of them have low vision, some have no vision. So if I see your H1 here, and it goes all the way, then the next heading you have, you're like, oh, I don't like the way H2 looks. It almost looks very close to H1. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the H3 because that's much smaller. Then, so if you go from H1 and your next heading is a H3, and let's just say it skips by the H2, what I'm going to hear on my screen reader is it's going to say H1, and it's going to give me that content. I'm like, oh, great. Let's go over to H2, and it's going to say there is no H2. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm saying, okay, go to H3. There is no H3. And then I'm like, oh, wow. So I'll be thinking I've missed something, even though I haven't, because what you've done is you went from H1 and then say you went to, like in this example here, they went to H4. Even though I definitely didn't miss information, I would be confused as a screen reader user because I'll say, if I think I'm missing something, you didn't label your H2, so I don't know what was there because it never read it. In all actuality, there is nothing there. So I know it sounds kind of confusing about the headings, but what I really want to bring home to you is, please keep in mind, when you are using these headings, your H1s, H2s, H3s, make sure that you don't do this, avoid this, make sure it runs sequentially, and make sure that the content under there is within that heading, because this is how they're navigating. A majority of screen reader users are navigating your page. If you do an H1 and you skip the H3, they're going to think they missed something, even if they haven't. Or if you use an H1 and then you do have an H2, but you didn't label as H2, you just made it look like an H2. Like say you made it 14 font bold, and they're like, oh, that looks close enough to H2. Let me make this section H2. And then you go down to, the next one, you're like, oh, okay, H3 looks good. I'll just go ahead and use that heading. It's not going to let me know that there's something separate here because you didn't use the actual heading. You just made it look like the heading, right? So it just looks like it is not the actual heading. So just keep in mind, if you need any help with headings, there is some stuff on the SharePoint, more additional training on that. Of course, we'll help you be able to help with your headings, because I have seen this as a consistent problem in our web pages. Not a major issue as far as a person being able to navigate, but it could possibly be. It can cause confusion, and sometimes it's even caused it to the point where it makes your page fail accessibility. So any questions about the headings? I'm sure there are some, but any that we can cover in this little bit of time we have now.
Yeah, I was just going to give you a quick time check reminder, Kianda, 13 minutes to go.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right, so alt text, that's a big deal as well. Alt text, I know you've heard about it. You've had discussions about it in the past. Some things don't even need to be alt text, like for instance, logo, unless it's the first thing on the page. If you are, say, if your page has Maryland Department of Health at the top of the page, I will go ahead and just put Maryland Department of Health as the logo. I would not use MDH logo because some people may not know what MDH means. Not everyone who visits our page knows necessarily what MDH means, but just go ahead and spell that out, Maryland Department of Health. I see that a lot. That's why I pointed that out. If you use the MDH logo again in your page, you're just using the logo again after the first time you use it, mark it as decorative. They don't need it. This provides nothing to the page. It provides no additional information. They don't need to see that image. It's just something that you're using for good looks. In the beginning of your page, I would go ahead and mark it as Maryland Department of Health, but after that, I wouldn't say it anymore because they don't need it. That's just for looks. It doesn't really provide usually any context to the information that you're trying to convey. Infographics, we do use a lot of them. I'll give you a really quick tip on how to make infographics accessible. The same information that you have in this picture, just put it in the alt text. Just like, instead of just saying infographic with a lot of statistics, right? Like, okay, that's all I'm going to hear over my screen reader. I'm not going to hear an infographic showing that 1 in 5 Marylanders have diabetes, right? You don't have to say image of, because my screen reader is already going to say image of. So what you just do is just say what it is. Because what my screen reader is going to read is image of an infographic showing that 1 in 5 Marylanders have diabetes. Or you can just put exactly what it is here. 1 in 5 have diabetes and don't know it, or whatever it is in there. Picture, does the picture provide context? A poor alt text would be patient of a nurse giving a shot. If this has no context to what you're saying in the paragraph, just mark it as decorative. If this is important, like you're trying to let people know, hey, geriatric people are also getting COVID-19 patients, older adults are, just say nurse administering a COVID-19 vaccine to an older adult. I have a lot of information on the internet about the alt text and some good and bad practices of that, and we can go through a little bit more of that later on. Or if you have graphs and charts and you want to know how can I make sure that this is accessible, reach out to us or go to the internet. And there's also a form on the internet that you can fill out, and we monitor that all day. So we'll definitely get the form. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out there as well. Okay, so just some key takeaways that you guys can take with you that we went over today very briefly. The digital accessibility in Section 508, These are the reasons why we need to make sure that we are compliant with them. There are the legal issues, the ethical issues, and the practical issues. Keep in mind your accessibility, your content editors and approvers, where you fall in line with making sure that that content is accessible, and the best ways that you can make sure that it is compliant and that the structure follows the accessibility guidelines. Writing for your accessibilities, the big thing that you need to take away from this, go and take a look at the plain language initiatives that are out there, but more importantly, your headings, how you organize your page, and your alt text. That was very important for our content editors and approvers. Headings and alt text. Please, nothing else take that away from today. Any questions about that? All right, now here's another slide that you also have access to, where I have provided some an editor checklist here, just made specifically for our content editors and approvers. As you're looking through your items, you can just go to the checklist. It'll show you everything just to make sure that your content has that. This is when you get this actual presentation, you'll be able to click on it and the checklist will open right up to you. And that goes for all of these items. These are the free tools that you can use now. None of these are downloads. These are all extensions. If you have any problems with these extensions, let us know. We'll make sure that you can get access to those extensions, but they're all free of charge. They cost you nothing to use these. These you can use starting today. You can use Wave, Axe, or even the free Alliant tool and do some checks on your page if you want today. Just to go and run the tool through your page and do a check on it. If you have any questions about where to find that, these hyperlinks here go to each one of these. So you do have the hyperlinks to those. And if you have any questions about how to use the tool or what the tool is giving you as a result, reach out and we'll let you know. Now, OWS, or the Office of Web Services, we have licensed some web testing and PDF testing tools to test in a much larger bulk. So if your site has 500 pages, we can test all 500 at one time. When you're using your free tools, you can only do page by page. And Do It has also licensed the Recite Me. That's very similar. It works very similar to Alliant. You'll have to do it page by page, and it also does not do PDF. Just like these don't do PDF either. But we do have the Common Look PDF scanner, which does your PDFs in bulk. You can also run the free PDF tool that's within Adobe as well, if you want to run it on your own. And here are some of the looks of what you'll see when you go to download these. Just want to make sure that you're downloading the correct one. That's why I included some of the logos of these, because sometimes some tools look very similar to others and they're not free. They'll try to ask you for money or something later on. But as long as these are the correct logos, they should be free of use, free for you to use to download, or not download, but to actually use the extension. All right. Go ahead, John, it's your turn.
Actually, flip back to that slide, Keonda, if you
Sure.
don't mind. I just wanted to put a finer point on. I believe this kind of
Oh, yeah.
addresses what Lorraine's question was in the beginning of the training. So
Oh.
just to put a finer point on this, these free accessibility testing tools are at your disposal on the marketplace now, and there's nothing that you have to do as far as vetting it or getting approval for it. They're all things that you can use now, cloud-based software that you can check your pages at any time. What we're doing for you guys in partnership is that we are scanning, as Keonda said, things in batches and working directly hand in hand with all of you to make sure that all of your web content, and eventually we'll get to PDFs and another discussion, are fully compliant. We encourage, we implore you to be proactive if you can and start looking at some of your stuff now, not necessarily waiting for our office to get up with you. But we are certainly here as a resource. And I think to another earlier question, if you're a smaller site collection, are you going to get any support? We are here and going to be supporting all of you, all 270 some odd number of you content editors and approvers. Every site is important, whether you're BHA or you're, Medicaid or any of the smaller sites that are out there. Everybody's important in this process, and we're going to touch and look at everything. But we do encourage you guys to be proactive and start looking at your stuff now. I do would also just compliment and thank you guys, because I think you have been getting a lot of emails from Eric about page reduction and getting rid of stale content. And through that effort so far, we've already removed over 800 pages from our health.maryland.gov SharePoint environment. That means that's 800 plus pages that we don't have to worry about anymore because we got rid of them. So if you guys have not yet responded back to the Excel files that Eric has sent you to verify, yes, I'd love to get rid of this, and yes, I can get rid of that, please do so, because as soon as you get that file back, and then Eric would go into the site and delete those pages for you, then Kianda has the green light to start engaging and working with you guys directly, and she'll start doing those scans. So very important process. The exact PDFs as well. It's been a painstaking exercise, but our office has made files for all of you for PDF documents, and you want to really look at those with a fine-tooth comb. And if you can archive and get rid of anything out there, it is going to benefit you tremendously, because again, it's less things that you have to worry about making accessible. We know there's things that you're going to want to keep. We know there's regulations that are going to make you have to keep things even if you don't want to keep them. But take a look and really go through those with a fine-tooth comb, because the more you can reduce and get off of the site, the less we have to worry about. So I just wanted to put a really fine point on that process, and also talk about the tools in the marketplace. I'll stop there real quick though too. Just any other questions on that? Anything I just said? Got a lot of thumbs up and explosions, so I think that was a good dialogue there. So I appreciate you guys with everything that you're doing there. Okay, go ahead, Kiana, please continue.
Oh, sure. There was some questions. Some individuals wanted to know when are they to expect their reports from Eric? Is there a timeline, or how they're going to receive their reports?
Great question. Everybody should have already received an Excel file for your web content. If you haven't, email Eric and copy me directly, but we do think we've hit all the site collection owners for the stale content. The PDF process, which is the exact same process, just with documents, he should be starting to send those emails out within the next week or two at the latest. So be on the lookout for the PDFs. You're not behind at all. We haven't sent anything out yet. But for web content, if you haven't gotten anything, please look. I do know somebody on the accessibility open office hours today did get it, had to go back through their emails and check for it and found it. So just double check your emails first, make sure you didn't skip it or miss it. But yes, if you're looking for a stale content file and you don't have it or can't find it, just email Eric and copy me and we'll get it to you very quickly. Great question though.
And also, Julianne.
I'll put Eric's email address in the chat as well.
Oh, yes, great. And Juliana had a question about, should we stay away from PDF files on the website?
No. Start looking at them now. Don't wait for us. I mean, if you know there's stuff out there that you don't want anymore, just start getting rid of things, guys. I mean, well, when I say get rid of things on documents, archive them. We're not really advocating to delete anything, because we want to be able to have a document in a repository in case you guys might need to access it for future reference. PDF documents are kind of like, right, there's like a records retention policy that we're honestly not 100% sure if we fully understand. So we're never going to get rid of a document, but we definitely want to archive it and get rid of it. So if you need any help with that process or what that looks like for like behind the scenes infrastructure, just email Eric and put a help desk ticket in. We can help you. But no, you don't have to wait for us to do anything. You can look at your pages now. You can look at your documents now. You can use the free tool softwares out there. But you will eventually be hearing from us. All of you will, just to help support you and make sure that you're on the right track and get everything done that you need to get done. So hopefully whoever asked that question, that made sense. And you don't have any other question on that.
Okay, so here's some ways to connect with accessibility, John, that we wanted to include this, as well as letting them know about our SharePoint Training Academy.
Yes, so, I always have to put a plug in for the SharePoint Training Academy. You guys, a lot of you guys know this resource now. It is on the intranet. It is a great one-stop shop for all of the content editors and approvers, not just with accessibility, but on here is where you can learn about how to edit a page, how to approve a page. We put all of our past training videos on there. That's where you can register for content editor and approver trainings. Again, the only reason why we did this particular series of trainings on Workday is because of how important the topic is, and we wanted to make sure we were testing for understanding and also tracking the participation. So this was not necessarily going to be a standard process in the future in all cases on Workday, This is a little bit more of the exception versus the rule. But again, training, recorded videos, vignettes, all kinds of resources available to you guys at the SharePoint Training Academy. Also, the open office hours, which I will ping now into the chat space. Somebody asked that earlier. Every Thursday, 11:30 to 12. Please join us. Here's the dial-in information again. And again, you should have an automatic calendar invite for that. That should be there as a placeholder. Email me directly if for some reason you don't have that, and I'll double check and make sure that you get that on. But we just had another 4 or 5 folks on today. It's a great open forum. Ask any question that you wish. Always great dialogue on those calls.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Any final
You guys have been
questions for
great.
Kianda? Yeah. Thank you, Kianda, for everything for this presentation. Putting Eric's email, I still haven't had a chance to do that, into the chat space. There's Eric's email. Any final questions for anybody before we adjourn? We kind of hit it just about right on time. Guys, don't forget, please, too, you must go back onto Workday and take the quiz. Need to pass it, too, with an 80%, 8 out of 10, to get full compliant and credit for this training. Also, as a reminder, there will be a series of 3 in total. So we'll have a training in October, and we will have a training in November. And one of those 2 trainings will have a lot more information on PDFs. We didn't even really scratch the surface with that topic today, but that will be coming. And of course, don't wait for the formal training. We are available anytime. Reach out to Kianda, put a help desk ticket in. Our office is always readily available to help you. No, you don't have to take the quiz automatically. Just make sure that you get it done and passed before the end of the month, because you do have a lot of your colleagues that also couldn't join this live session today, and they'll have to watch the recorded version and then take the quiz at a later time. So just do that whenever you have at your convenience, guys, the quiz. But if you want to knock it out now, feel free as well. Okay, any final questions before we let everybody go? Guys, really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Pamela, yes, we can send you something. Send Kianda an email on that. And we look forward to working with you guys. Email Kianda, myself, put a help desk ticket into our office anytime. We're here to assist you for everything. Thank you so much, guys. Great presentation, Kianda. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you again for attending today.